Hi everyone, welcome back. Spring is in the air and today I'm going to show you my spring palettes. Usually I'm in dark clothing, but today I found this dress in my closet and I think it's perfect for today's spring video. But I'm starting to think that my background might not be suitable for spring or summer, and I don't know what to do with it because it is so dark and brown. Like, I'm not even sure how I would make it look springy. Maybe I can just make like a contrast, the brown wall with some white flowers, maybe like a country, romantic French country kind of vibe. I don't know, but I want to change it up. Well, background aside, today we're going to talk about eyeshadow palettes. As you guys know, I have been working hard on my project pan, and for the past couple of weeks, I have been using all of my spring palettes. I have a total of 9 spring palettes. At first, I thought I had 7, and then I realized I have 8, and now I've realized I have 9, I think. I might have counted it wrong too. Let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have decided to rank all of my palettes, so I will go from number 9 and then all the way up to number 1, which will be my favorite spring palette. At number 9 is my Natasha Denona Pastel palette. I love Natasha Denona, I love her formula, but something about this palette just didn't work for me. Many of the shades in this palette were kind of powdery, especially this blue shade. I had a lot of trouble getting it on to my eye. I'm not a huge fan of the greens, so it was also the color story that I just didn't vibe with. I did, however, like the purple shades here. This was the first time that I played around with pastels, and it's possible that maybe pastels are just not my type of colors. I mean, this pink is kind of pastel-y, and I've never reached for this dress before. I do also really like this yellow shade here. All right, next is this Milani Gilded Jewel palette. This palette was actually my very first eyeshadow palette. My whole entire life, I've never worn eyeshadow, and then about 2 years ago, I started my Instagram and YouTube, and that's literally when I got introduced to wearing eyeshadow. I know. All I used to wear was an eyeliner and mascara. So when I first used this palette, I had no idea what I was doing, but Instagram said that I did okay. Now here I am talking about eyeshadows, doing hundreds and hundreds of looks. I love the color story. Really pretty blues and greens. You have yellow, pink. It's pretty versatile. But I have to say that I'm not a colorful eyeshadow person. So I do gravitate toward something like just a simple pink or yellow. And as you can see, I did hit pan on this yellow shade. This is my second pan that I've hit on eyeshadow after using makeup for 2 years. The reason why this palette is more on the bottom of my list is that some of these shades are a little too powdery. It can get messy pretty quickly. All right, up next is a brand that you might be really curious about, but you haven't seen too many videos about, and that's Winky Luxe. If you shop at Target, you will definitely see some Winky Luxe stuff. Here is the palette. I love their aesthetics, really cute. And what I like about this palette are all the different grays in it. I actually love gray eyeshadow for spring, but I find it very hard to find gray in eyeshadow palettes. A lot of palettes have taupey shades, but not so much gray. The only thing that keeps this palette at the bottom of my stack is that the formula is not that great. It's not bad. I mean, you do get a good amount of pigment on your eyes, so it's usable, but it's also not like the nice, creamy, buttery formula. It's not powdery to the point where it's disappearing off of your eyelids, but it is more on the powdery side. Next is this Juvia's Place Candy Shop palette. I love Juvia's Place. The formula of their eyeshadow is really, really good. And these colors are perfect for spring. But you guys know, as I said before, I'm not someone who gravitates toward the bold spring colors. I am a little bit more of the neutral, the lighter spring colors. So I actually really love the top row here instead of like the blue or the dark pink over here. And I feel like one of these shades, either the blue one or the pink one, was a little bit powdery compared to the rest of the palette, which has really nice, buttery, smooth, matte shades. Next, we have this palette. It's Milani Gilded Flora. This palette was pretty popular when it came out. A lot of people liked it, and I think they had good reasons. The formula is decent. I did not experience anything that was too powdery or messy. Like, it's a pretty decent formula at an affordable price. Not as good as Juvia's Place, not as good as some of the ColourPop palettes, but still a pretty good formula, and the color story is really nice. You have some yellows, light purples. It's pretty good color story for springtime. I'm not sure if you can see, the most that I used is really this one, which is a little bit more on like the pinky rosy side. So I either like pink, rosy, yellow, taupey, or just plain brown and plain gray shades. But I do really like the yellow shades in here. I definitely prefer the yellow in this palette compared to the other Milani palette. Up next, I have another affordable palette. This is the Morphe 9P Petal Passion. Quality of the formula is really great in this palette. Morphe is a pretty affordable brand, but I feel like the eyeshadow formula is pretty good. These are the shades that I absolutely love for spring. For spring, I like really romantic, soft, pink coral shades, or something just very like neutral, gray, yellow with a bold lip. This probably can also be a really good like a wedding palette. I only have 3 more to go. So number 3 on my list is a palette that I'm actually wearing on my eyes right now. And this is not the typical color story that I wear, but I had so much fun with this palette that it has landed on my number 3 place. And that is the Huda Beauty Wild Python palette. This is one of those palettes that I had completely forgot about, that I didn't even realize that this is a spring palette until the very last minute. And as you guys know, I am doing 2 looks with every single eyeshadow palette that I own, and I literally discovered this a couple of days ago, and this is my second look. The quality of this palette is decent, and it's just so versatile for such a small palette. It's a 9-shade palette, but you can do many different looks. You have this really interesting parrot green here, and then you can do like a coral shade, you have some browns, and these really pretty vibrant blue shades, and you also have this other green. And usually green is not my favorite color, but I think it's really the mint greens that I don't like, but I'm loving the greens in this palette. I'm not a huge fan of all of these wild palette releases from Huda, but this one in particular I think is a really good one. So if you were to pick one out of the entire wild collection that Huda had released, I would definitely pick this one. All right, we're getting close to number 1. My number 2 place is Huda Beauty's Mercury Retrograde. This is just a really nice, colorful palette with a good balance of color and more like neutral tones. You have the option of going nice and bright with this blue shade over here and some of these purple shades, but you can also keep it a little bit more toned down for spring with some of the shades up here. And you also have a really nice pink shade. The only thing this palette is missing is a yellow shade for me. So most likely, I'm not the type of person who's going to use purple or blue eyeshadows so much. So I gravitate more toward like this shade, and there's like a taupey shade here, and then maybe this one. And definitely the pink shade over here. But I do enjoy doing colorful eyeshadow looks for Instagram and here on my channel. The formula of this palette is decent. The only shade that I had trouble with is this one right here, which I felt was really crumply and messy. But other than that, I would say a pretty decent formula. Definitely not Huda's best. Huda's best, I would say, is her Empowered palette, but not bad. A pretty good formula. Time for number one. The number one spring eyeshadow palette for me is Sigma Cor-de Rosa palette. How beautiful is this? These are the kind of shades that I absolutely love for spring. Is these soft, rosy, and even a little bit of a brown shade in there. I do really like this pink shade over here, and this shade is really nice too, and this one. And if you want to create some depth in your look, then some of these dark shades over here are really good as well. Cor-de Rosa palette is actually very similar to the Morphe 9P Petal Passion palette as well. Both of them are these sort of romantic, rosy colored palettes. Here they are side by side. They look quite similar. These are all of the palettes that I have for springtime, but I have to say that my ideal spring palette does not exist. My ideal palette would have a yellow shade, pink, gray, a taupey shade, definitely some nice chocolatey browns. What else? A peach shade, that would be nice too. That's really it. Like the boldest color that I could see myself using just for me personally during springtime is yellow. But other than that, just really romantic rosy looks, or like a really gray or taupey brown neutral type of eye looks with a bold like really bright pink or red lip. But as you can see today, I have done a colorful eye look. That's because I'm going through all of my eyeshadow palettes and using each one at least 2 times. So, you know, I'm gonna end up putting all different types of colors on my eyelids. This type of look I would only do for like an Indian party where I'm wearing really bright Indian clothes. So I think for the rest of the spring, the 2 palettes that I'm going, maybe not 2, but the couple of palettes that I will be reaching into is the Cor-de Rosa and the 9P for like rosy looks. This Winky Luxe one for the gray eye look. This Milani one for the yellow. Retrograde for some of that taupey brown look. I don't think I'm gonna reach into the pastel palette. Not gonna reach into the Milani Gilded Jewel. Even though I love this palette, I don't think I'm gonna use it for me on an everyday basis. And although I love the formula of the Juvia's Place eyeshadow, I don't think I'm going to be reaching into all these colorful shades either. So most likely these are the palettes that I would be reaching into for spring, but I have so many other eyeshadow palettes to go through, so I probably will not be using these palettes, and maybe I'll use them next year, or maybe probably I'll have more palettes by next spring. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit that like button. I will put all of my links for all of these palettes down below. They are affiliate links, so I will make a small commission if you click on them and purchase anything from them. And if you use them, I appreciate it so much. And if you haven't already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and also the bell for notification of any videos that I upload. I do keep you guys updated on my project pen. I will have my update number 2 very soon. Thank you. Bye.